Hi everybody, like she said, my name is Jenna Ezarik, and today we're going to be taking you a little bit behind the scenes of content creation. Now I've been doing this for, not to date myself, but almost 14 years, which is crazy because I know I'm 21, I'm so young. I'm not. But yeah, so I've been doing this for quite some time now, and there's a lot that goes into it. First off, how many in the room are creators? Okay, good, yes. Give it up for creators. So you guys get it. Yeah, so what I want to cover today is just kind of what goes into it, you know, the creation, the ideas, the business, and all of the fun stuff. So the one thing I'm not good at is PowerPoint, so I forgot to push the button. So let's kind of start at the beginning. Well, we'll skip ahead a little bit. I went to West Virginia University, where I double majored in forensic biology and biology. And that has only gotten me a great conversation starter for where I am today. I don't use that at all in my career. But back then, I went to school, had no idea what I wanted to do. They shouldn't allow 18-year-olds to be like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Because we don't know that. And as you may know, I have a sister who goes by iJustine on the internet. She refers to herself as the grandma of YouTube. And as the little sister at the time when she started doing this 18 years ago, maybe longer, it wasn't a thing. Creating content really was not a thing that people did. If we were out in public holding a camera, people would be like, do you want me to take your picture? Like, do you want me to take your picture for you? And we would just say, oh no, we're just making a video for our mom. Because how do you say that you're filming yourself to put yourself on the internet? It was weird. So, like I said, little sister, she's like, I don't have anyone to make content with. You're it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was in college full time, and on the weekends I would fly to Los Angeles, which was very far, to help her come up with ideas. We were doing silly parodies. We were doing all types of really weird things that we look back on now and we cringe. But we were doing that, and she was like, you should just start your own YouTube channel. And I said, absolutely not. So, of course, I started my own YouTube channel. And gosh, we were waiting in line for an iPad, I think in New York, and at the time I couldn't afford an iPad, but I was really excited for everybody else who was gonna get one. So here we are, almost 14 years later, 1,400 videos later, probably more, but some of them have been privated because, there's just some things you're like, why would I do that? But you live and you learn and you grow. Almost 1 million subscribers. Will I ever get there? Hard to say, but we're going to talk later about how subscribers actually don't matter, that's a whole nother topic. We'll get there. So yeah, I started a YouTube channel, and here we are. And my content that I was focused on was vlogging. I was making vlogs. I was making content about my life. And it was great because I really, I got to do so many interesting things, and I was able to bring my audience with me and feel like they were a part of the journey. But as you know, making vlogs about your life and doing exciting things is great, until this little thing, like the pandemic, happened. And at this point, we're all at home. So I'm like, okay, I'm at home by myself, not doing anything. How do I be interesting? But more importantly, how do I do my job? So I had to get a little creative and think about what I liked, and I had to pivot. When it comes to, I feel like anything in life, you have to be able to adapt, you have to be able to adjust, and you always have to be ready to pivot. And I really, really hope, are there any Friends fans? Please. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yes, an applause. I love that. So you always have to be ready to adapt. And that is one of the huge things when it comes to being a content creator, because things are constantly changing and, making it kind of difficult for us creators. So, okay, I'm at home. I'm like, what do I do? What do I like? What do I care about? How do I keep my sanity? And I thought, okay, I like tech. I like gaming. I like watching live streams, and podcasts are back. So I decided to do the thing that YouTube really tells you not to do, is to confuse your channel. And I went from 10 years of vlogging to, hey, you guys are gonna like me talking about tech now. How's that gonna work? So I don't even wanna say I slowly transitioned. I just full on went for it. I'm like, what's up guys? We've got the new iPhone here. Who wants to talk about it? Transitioning from making the vlogs, obviously I was still gonna do that once the world opened back up, but I started making videos about tech, which ended up being the best career choice that I've ever made. And I also was a huge gamer. I've been gaming since I was old enough to hold a controller. So I was like, okay, I've never done live streams before. Let's get a Twitch channel. which shout out to the streamers and gamers because the tech support behind gaming is insane. Like, I'm relatively smart when it comes to tech, but that is like a whole different language. So did that, started the Same Brain podcast with my sister, and that was it. I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I do now. And then from there, I obviously was still doing vlogs and all of that, but now I have oversaturated myself, and I'm like, okay, great, now I'm doing a million more things. And that really is the thing when it comes to, the internet, is there are so many platforms, there's so many places that you can be. So like, how do you decide what you want to focus on? And my best advice is to be as diverse as you can and to be everywhere. Because, okay, who remembers Vine? Okay, Vine. Who remembers Daily Booth? Oh my God, thank you, this is incredible. Daily Booth was awesome. But if you're that type of person and you're putting everything into, one platform, it could be gone tomorrow. Now, I highly doubt YouTube is going anywhere tomorrow, so I think we're okay there. But you truly never know. And if that is how you're making all your money and all of your, effort is going into that, why not try to diversify? I didn't even put Threads up here. Threads is still so relatively new. Like, it's impossible to keep up with everything. But diversify as much as possible and be as many places as you possibly can. I was reading these stats, which was actually kind of shocking, that a person watches an average of 17 hours of online video a week. I think mine's a little more. Do you guys think yours is more? Raise your hand if you think it's more. Yeah, these are my people. Videos, twice as likely to be shared. I personally missed the Instagram, where it was sharing pictures, but it's a sore subject. The most engaging type of content is short form video. And millennials actually, they most trust influencers with product recommendations. 50% of them trust influencers as opposed to 38% who trust celebrities. So that was also pretty interesting for me that I learned. Okay, content. When I started doing this, like I said, a very long time ago, you would not think of ever holding your phone like this. If somebody went to take a video of you and they held it like this, you're like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. You just don't do that. But now in a world where we're making content for YouTube, but we're also making content for short form content, that's just, an extra little step that you have to take. But for me, in my studio, I have my camera set. I have everything set so that I can just push a button and I can just record, so it's easy. But now we're doing short form content as well as long form on YouTube. And as much as I love gear and I love cameras and I love setting things up, I do not want to keep switching out a lens, or I don't want to keep switching out a camera. So have you guys heard of this place called B&H? Okay. One day I was like, I am so tired of setting up this camera for vertical content. So I got on B&H and I did a little shopping, and I found what might be the best piece of technology to ever exist. It's like $100. It's this rotating camera collar where you can easily go from portrait to landscape like seamlessly. And that has been the best thing I've purchased probably in the last decade. That might be a stretch, but it just makes going and being able to make, long form content on YouTube to being like, okay, now I'm just gonna switch for vertical content so much easier. So, keep that in mind if you guys wanna do some shopping. Okay, so when it comes to being a creator, I work in tech, but I'm not good at tech, sorry. Not good at PowerPoint. Okay, so when it comes to being a creator, there are a few different pillars that I think are the most important. If you are doing it, if you're in this industry, and if you're not passionate about it, chances are your audience is gonna know. People want to be a content creator, which is incredible. Like, I love all my creators. But if you're not passionate, it's gonna show. You also have to have ideas. If you don't have any ideas, what are you gonna make your content about? And gear, I think personally, is the least important. If anyone from B&H is here, don't listen. Gear is the least important when it comes to being a creator, and we'll get to that. And also just knowing your audience. If you're starting out and you want to be a creator, who do you want your audience to be? Or if you're already creating, who is your audience? What do they want? What is working? And go with that. So I get this question a million times, maybe not a million. I've probably gotten it a million times. How do I get into vlogging, or how do I get into creating? And kind of like going back to the pillars and that, I'm like, okay, well, are you passionate about it, or do you think this is just something that you want to do? I love traveling, and I think making travel content really shines through for people. They're like, oh, look at her, she's so happy, which most of the time I am, and I'm really tired. So like, that is my passion. I love doing that. And I'm like, what do you want to do? Is this something you want to do? Is this something you want to open yourself up to? Because once you put yourself on the internet, that's it. You're inviting literal strangers to be a part of your life, which is a blessing. And also sometimes it's, a little weird to think about, but it's all good. So don't force it. I think there was an era in 2016 to 2017 where daily vlogging was a thing. Do you guys remember the daily vlogging days? Just horrible times. My sister and I were like, we'd wake up, we're like, what are we gonna do today for fun? And we're like, did we just say that? Like, we called it forced fun because we're like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna go to the park? Are we gonna go to Disney? And we're like, just like things that are fun, but we're literally just doing it for content. And it kind of sucked the joy out of not only our lives, but like what we were doing. And we're like, you know what, we need to take a step back. And thankfully I'm at a place now where I'm only making vlogs when I want to for myself. If it's something I wanna share, I'm sharing it. And my audience can, I feel like, tell a difference being like, okay, she's actually happy. She's not just doing this forced fun. And once again, it just comes back to, knowing your audience and also gear. We'll get into that because I do love my gear. Speaking of the vlogging setup, you have to be ready for YouTube long form. You have to be ready for portrait. This is the setup. No, it's not the setup. That would be terrible. I've been doing this for so long where I'm like, you know what? How do I carry the least amount of tech possible and still be okay? So I have switched to, I haven't switched, but this came out earlier this year. This is the Sony ZV-1 Mark II. It is just a tiny, cute little compact camera where, look at that cute little windscreen. That's like my favorite part about these cameras. I still get the 4K, it has a built-in ND filter, and this camera is literally with me at all times. Except right now it's in a different room, so I'm not lying, I promise. Are you holding it up? Yes, there it is. Shout out to the Sony ZV-1 Mark II. It's great. So anyway, you do not need some type of extravagant camera. You do not need all of this stuff. There are so many creators who have built millions and millions and millions of followers using their phone, using what they have, and I think that's great, but we'll go into that as well. With that being said, I also am the type of person who overpacks, and I think, what if? This is actually an outdated picture. Not shown here is probably another phone, a drone, a 360 camera, and then another camera. So what if I need the shot? What if I'm in a helicopter and I have to, I don't know, attach a GoPro or attach something to the outside of it? You never know. So I'm working on that. I'm all or nothing, but smaller, better, more compact is usually what I strive for. Okay, so that's the vlogging aspect of that in gear. Now there's everything else. Now that I've pivoted to tech and things like that, I would say that there's less gear, but there's actually more gear. But the passion and all of that still has to be behind your content. When it comes to reviewing products, it's obviously, I don't want to say easier, but you're like, okay, I have this physical thing that I'm going to be talking about. And how do I make this physical thing relevant? How do I connect with my audience to get them to care? And also, you're going up against some of the biggest creators in the world. Like, why are you going to watch mine over, a Marquez video, an iJustine video? So you have to think, what is this product? Who's going to care? And how do I stand out? And once again, you have the ideas and the gear. The best thing about the filming in my studio is my gear does not move. If anybody touches it, you're getting kicked out of my house. Like, I just need to be able to push that button. But that took me 13 years to get to that. And this also comes back to knowing your audience and being authentic. Like that poll said, 50% of millennials trust influencers when it comes to product reviews, but you have to earn that trust. Okay, gear. We love gear. This is actually an outdated picture of my studio. Since then, I've had my dark mode era, and I've painted everything black. So, it's an identity crisis. But I think when it comes to gear, this is very important. The best gear you can use is the gear you're most comfortable with, what you're the most knowledgeable about, and what you have access to. And I think it's hard because as someone who reviews the latest and greatest, I'm not telling you this is what you need. I'm just telling you this is what's out there. I recently went to Hawaii where I was reviewing an Insta360 camera, but it was a new dive case. And I was like, I've used this camera so many times. I'm good. I don't need to practice. And at the same time, I was also doing my first scuba class, which I've never done before. So I go on the boat, I'm like, great, let's do this. I get in the water, I go to hit the button and it's not recording. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm just underwater. I don't really know how to scuba. I can't use my camera. And the whole video is about this. So I did not do my research. I was not comfortable with the new update. And I basically missed all of that, on camera. So, be familiar, be knowledgeable, do your research. But you don't need the latest and greatest. There's so many great things out there. And like I said before, millions and millions of people watch people who create on their phone. And that is, honestly, that's the way to go. And I know we have a good chat coming up with Ethan. We'll be talking more about some iPhone stuff. So, okay, this is probably 1/4 of the gear in my studio. I know I just said you don't need gear, but I might be a gearhead. I've been shooting on Sony for the past 6 or 7 years, and it took me 13 years to get to this place where I walk into my studio, turn on the lights, turn on the camera, and we're good. Everything is set, everything is great. But before this, during the pandemic, I had one tiny room, which was also my guest bedroom, where I had a Murphy bed that would come down, and I'd have to move my desk. And on the same desk, it was my streaming setup, which, if you guys know anything about streaming or PC gaming, it takes up so much space. So when I was gonna shoot a YouTube video, I had to take everything down, move everything, and set up every single time for a video. That made me not want to work, really, because that was too much work. But now, thankfully, I'm at a spot where everything is set, for the most part, and we can just shoot, right? That's it. We just turn on the camera, and, oh, I didn't hit the next slide. This makes sense now. Anyway, yeah. So we're good to go. That's it. You got your gear, you've got your product, you just shoot, right? No, you do not. A lot of the times when it comes to product reviews, I will shoot a specific unboxing before, and then I'm like, okay, well now I need to, why am I so bad at PowerPoint? Anyway, product review, so I will shoot an unboxing and then I have to use the product because I'm not just gonna open it and be like, hey guys, look at this, this is great, this. No, they will see right through you and you need to know about the product. So there's so much that goes into it and it's just so much more. You need to write a script, you need to do, plan out your A-roll, plan out your B-roll. You need to actually use the product, make sure it works. The amount of times I've gotten a product from a company and I've used it and I'm like, this sucks. I'm not gonna I don't tell them that. Well, sometimes I do actually. I'm like, I can't talk about this. I can't tell my audience that this is great. This is horrible. And if you're not using it and you're not researching it, you're not gonna know. So, you have your script, you have all of that, you have your talking points. And I feel like shot lists are your friend. I usually am like, oh, I can remember to get that shot, and then it just never happens. Also charge your gear before you go, before you're gonna film. The amount of times I've gone to film and my lavalier is dead and I'm like, now I have to wait an hour, I quit. I'm gonna get a new job. And some tips I feel like too that I've learned along the way is kind of, especially nowadays when you're making content for different platforms, is to film kind of multiple endings or different takes. I'm so used to saying, oh, make sure you like, subscribe, check the link in the description. But it's like, okay, no, now we have stories, now we have TikTok, we have all of this. So kind of just shooting those variations have kind of saved me a ton of time. Also, don't forget to get the thumbnail. So many times I forget and I'm scrolling through video footage of me being like, does she ever stand still where I can just take a screen gap? Why are you moving so much? What are you doing? Also, you can never, ever, ever have enough B-roll. That is, if you learn anything, you can never have enough B-roll, ever. So okay, we filmed, we're good, we get in bed, we take our makeup off, we put our jammies on, and that's usually when I realize I forgot to do something, and that's usually me. All right, so we film, we've got everything done, we're good. Post-production, my least favorite part. Don't like post-production. Usually after I film, I will check the footage immediately. I filmed a video actually a couple weeks ago before I was about to travel, and 45 minutes, A-roll, knocked it out. I was like, you know what, I just have a feeling that's not good. And I put that SD card in my computer, and all of my audio, my mic was rubbing on my shirt. And I was like, do I know any post-production audio wizards, or am I kind of screwed here? I was screwed, so I filmed the whole thing again. But if I wouldn't have checked, I would have literally left to travel across the country and been like, oops, my bad, you guys don't have a video because I messed up. Always create a new library. I edit in Final Cut, and for a while there, I just used to throw everything in one library until that got corrupt, and I lost 7 brand videos. That one hurt. I still think about that daily. Also organize, back up your files. I had a laptop stolen one time, and I also had another time where my laptop, I don't know what happened. It just like short-circuited and I lost everything. And not only did I lose, brand content, I lost my personal things. So if I can teach you anything, it's to please back up your content. Also turn on Find My, because I could have found my Mac when it got stolen. But yeah, an organization. There's times now where I go back and I'm like, oh, this is relevant again. Like I should go back and find old content and repurpose it. You're able to, use that content for so many different platforms. So if you're able to find it, if you're organized and structured, it makes it so much easier. Okay, post-production. Well, also, I guess, kind of pre-production. There are so many tools, and I am definitely really sometimes bad at my job when it comes to using tools, but the best tool I use, I think, is the iPhone Notes app. Like, okay, who uses the Notes app? Yes, isn't it incredible? It's so great. I literally planned scripts. You can do shared notes. There's literally so many things you can do. I will type out my whole script, and you can add those bullet points, which make it so easy to, especially when you're shooting, I'm like, okay, got that shot. If I'm gonna be shooting with someone, I will send them a shared note so that we're on the same page. It's the best app. Like I said, I also use Final Cut. I started in iMovie in 2010, maybe 2009, and I actually just saw a picture that popped up on my Facebook that said 10 years ago, and it was a picture of me and my sister Justine, and she was teaching me how to use Final Cut, which I wish I could have put in this presentation because it was an interesting picture. But so I guess I've been editing Final Cut for 10 years, but there's so many other things. There's Adobe, there's DaVinci, there's so many things, but I don't have time to learn that, and I don't want to. If anything, I want to hire an editor, so if there's any editors here, help me, please. Obviously, Photoshop, I edit a lot of thumbnails for, and just pictures in general. Lightroom, Frame.io. Do we have any Frame.io fans? Okay. Frame.io is incredible. So I use this for, I was talking about updating or keeping your storage and files, secure. When I do use an editor or someone, I do about 90% of everything myself still, which people are like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I like being in control. So 90% of stuff I do myself, but there are times I outsource. So it will upload a library with all my footage to Frame.io. The editor can just take it, download it. But the best part is when they're done, they can upload it, and I can just easily watch the video and say at 2:39, I'm like, oh, I didn't like that. Can you add B-roll here? Or at 5:27, and you can just add notes as the video is playing. So that's one of the best things for feedback. It's also really great when I send all the content to brands. So when I'm sending a branded video to them, I will use Frame.io. Same thing, they don't have to send me back an annoying email that says 5:24, 6:15, and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's just in the video, and it makes it so easy to be able to tell what needs changed. Okay, one more question. Who uses PostLab? Really? Was that only one hand? Okay, then maybe some of you will be interested in this. So PostLab is an incredible collaborative editing program. So like I said, sometimes I use an editor. All of my files will be uploaded to Frame.io, which they can download, and anybody who has the source video files can then work on a project. So say you start a project in PostLab and you're editing in Final Cut. If my editor starts that and say they do, a quick edit, they can save to PostLab. I can then take that video file and open that library on my Final Cut and continue to edit. It is just it's so seamless, it's so good for collaboration, and it makes things just so much easier since I still love being involved. So PostLab, I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure it works with other, I'm not sure if it's just Final Cut. That I don't know, but I think it is. It is just Final Cut? I don't know. What's that?
It works on Adobe.
Oh, and Adobe, yeah, give it up for Adobe. We love Adobe. I just don't want to learn. So yeah, it's great. If you're looking for that collaborative thing, highly recommend using that. Okay, tips and tricks. Ooh. If you guys have any, I'm still trying to get to 1 million. Okay, there's things like vidIQ, TubeBuddy. There's so many resources that you can use to help with analytics and things like that. I don't use these only because after a while, I don't want to admit this, but sometimes I just stop caring. Like, this is what you get what you get. But there's so many things and there's so many resources where it'll actually tell you like, okay, this thumbnail might perform better than this thumbnail, or this is what's trending for the week. So why don't you make, content about this? I recently was at an event in Utah, which is where Maria and I were sucking down the oxygen, and there was a class with the YouTube creator liaison, Renee Ritchie, and he was giving some super insightful things when it comes to YouTube, and he said that subscribers don't matter. Now, if you would have said that like 8 years ago, people would be like, okay, like, yeah, they do. But turns out subscribers don't actually matter. So when you're making content and you're saying, oh, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, those are actually things that do not matter when it comes to being favored in the algorithm. What matters is watch time, retention time, and keeping people on your channel. So I've kind of had to adjust the way I do things because I'm so used to being like, oh, make sure you guys subscribe, like, let me know in the comments. Like, we don't do that anymore, apparently. And once you kind of start to exit your way from the video, your audience, if they can tell, they'll just click away. So you need to be able to keep them engaged, and you want them to watch something else. So if I made a camera video, I'm like, hey guys, like, I just talked about the new, A7C Mark II. If you're interested, I also talked about this new lens. So doing that so that you're keeping people on your channel, watching your content, is gonna be the most rewarding. Also, thumbnails, title, very important. There's been a lot of people who maybe their video didn't perform as well. Maybe this is like videos you posted 5 years ago and they've changed their thumbnail and title and it has taken off. So that doesn't hurt your channel. You can literally change it as many times as possible if you feel like it. That's a big task. Also, I need someone who makes thumbnails. So if anybody, this is great. I'm just gonna go around and try to hire people. Any thumbnail makers in the audience, let me know. But yeah, you can change your thumbnail as many times as possible and you never know if that's gonna make a difference. Okay, also, I know, we still have some things. Video can fix almost anything. That's why we have the B-roll. So many times brands are like, oh, we love how you were sitting there and you said this, but can you just go back and say this? I'm like, well, let me just look the exact same and put my body in the exact same spot. I can't really do that. So if you have, B-roll, you can just throw some VO over it and fix it. Also, most people watch their phone or content on silent, especially for short form content. So if you're able to do closed captions, that also helps for retention so that people are actually, paying attention and not just gonna swipe you away. And when I'm not using that cool little rotating collar thing, I will just shoot wider if I'm shooting for YouTube or if I'm, gonna be using it for vertical. That way we can crop in. And also, AI is your friend. I know it's a sensitive subject, but has anybody used the Photoshop beta? It is the best thing ever. So with the Photoshop beta, you're able to do the generative AI. Let's see, is this gonna play? It's gonna play. So I recently was in Utah, and I was like, I shot a little birthday vlog, and I thought, ooh, I don't have a thumbnail, but I had this picture of my sister and I was like, okay, well, how am I gonna make this a thumbnail? If I keep zooming in, it's too much. So I was like, Photoshop beta. So generative AI is really cool. So I throw in this picture in the thumbnail size. I selected the left side of the screen. You can add markers if you're like, add this, remove this, but I literally just hit generate and let it do its own thing. There's different variations that you can pick from. Like right now, it's literally going to generate the rest of my arm, which is kind of crazy. Now, sometimes it'll give you a couple arms, so you have to keep trying. It's not always good, it's still beta. But this time, it gave me the rest of my arm, as we'll see here in a second. And at this point, I was able to, pick which one looked the most realistic. I was able to do it again if I wanted. And I created a thumbnail from literally AI. If you want to see the whole thumbnail, you can go to youtube.com/Jenna Ezarik and watch my latest vlog. Thank you. But yeah, this is incredible. This has been a great. It's also good for if you ever take a picture and there's people in it that you don't want, you just select them and get them out of there. Or an X, if you're just no, I like myself in this picture, bye, see ya. Okay, so working with brands, my favorite. There's so many different ways you can work with brands. There's campaigns, there's collaborations, there's one-offs, there's literally, it's endless, I feel like nowadays. But the best practices that I've seen when it comes to working with brands is making yourself accessible. I swear, the smartest thing I've ever done, other than getting that rotating thing, is putting my email address in my Instagram bio or like in my YouTube and just making myself accessible. You know, I've talked to so many people who work in the industry and agencies, and they're like, yeah, like we don't know how to reach them. Like, we gotta like do these extra steps. But if your email is right there, they're probably gonna reach out. Same with location. Don't put your home address, but a lot of people are looking for, you know, LA or New York-based people. You know, if they see in your bio, they're like, oh, cool, add them to the list. Also, knowing your worth. People, oh gosh, I get so many questions. How much should I charge? And I'm like, I can give you a range, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what do you think it's worth? Like, what do you think you can charge? This is your brand, and this is your business. Don't sell yourself short, because this is a lot of work. Yes, the job is incredible, and you know we're all very grateful. But at the end of the day, it is work and it is a job. Also, contracts. So, if I've given any advice to any creator, have a lawyer if you can. There's a lot of, I don't want to call them shady, but there's a lot of shady things that are slipped into contracts where they will literally own your content. And, you know, I remember being young and naive. I'm like, yeah, you can have it. But I'm like, no, actually, no, I don't want you to use that until I'm like 90. So reading contracts, and if there's any exclusivity, you know, you're able to charge more, because if a brand is like, nope, you can't talk about another whatever for the next 6 months, that could be revenue that you're missing out on. So they're going to have to pay for that. Slide into the DMs. We all love that, right? But seriously, I feel like if anything came out of the pandemic, it's brands kind of care less, or like are just like, whatever. So it's like, people are like, I want to work with so-and-so. I'm like, then just reach out to them. Like, slide into their DMs, be like, hey, I have an idea. I would love to work with you. If this isn't the right person to talk to, who can I talk to? And you never know. Maybe they say no, or maybe you get what you want and you have now formed, you know, a new relationship. And speaking of relationships, this is, I think, the most important when it comes to working with brands. As you guys have seen here, you know, we've got Phil Spencer, and we've had Hannes Benet, we've got Neil Manowitz, and these are some of the people that over the past 13, 14 years that I've worked with and I've built relationships with. So sometimes it's not always about money, it's about literally building those relationships and just kind of going with it. This is a, PowerPoint, I love it. One of the coolest things I've had the opportunity to do was have my own event with Sony, and it was called Camera Camp. And this was not a paid thing. I was not paid. No one was paid to be here. And this was an event that stemmed from literally just building a relationship with Sony over the past 6, 7, 8 years. And what happened was there were invited like 80 to 90 creators. The first one we came out in Montana. And it was all about community. Like I said, no one was there for money. We were just there to like build the community, to hang out, to learn, and to kind of be, you know, with each other. And the next one actually happened in 2023 of this year. You know, we had that little pandemic, so we didn't do anything. But this was literally an event where hundreds of people were coming out to just all hang out. And it's literally like one of the most memorable things that there is no amount of money in the world that I would have traded for this experience. Well, maybe, but this was a really cool experience, and this is something that, to this day, people will text me about and be like, you know what, remember that time in 2019? Like, that was still such a very special thing to me, and it's like those things and those things, like, these things are memories that I will literally cherish forever. So yes, money is cool, but sometimes say yes to the free things, put yourself out there, because you really never know what it might lead to. Which brings me to one of my most favorite things that I've been doing. Obviously, I have a huge relationship with Sony, and almost 2 years ago, they were like, hey, do you want to be the host of this new series that we're gonna do called The Lowdown on Sony Electronics? And I went, me? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I'm just some weirdo on the internet who started making videos like in my childhood bedroom. Like, what? But like these big picture opportunities, you truly never know what's gonna happen. So put yourself out there, reach out to brands, build those relationships, talk to other creators, post that video. People are like, I don't wanna post this video, I look stupid, I feel stupid. But in the end of the day, like, it truly does not matter. We all look stupid. That's why I privated probably hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel. But you never know. You never know what one picture, one video, one post could like potentially lead to. And honestly, I've met all of my best friends because of cameras and because of gear. So I'm forever thankful for that. And on the other side of that, we're doing a lot. We've got, we're working for Sony, we're working for ourselves, we're doing all types of things. Burnout is extremely real in this industry. And I feel like if we've learned anything from the past couple of years, I feel like I'm really grateful that people are taking mental health a lot more serious and people are talking about it. But burnout is definitely inevitable. And the best thing I could say is to know yourself and know your body and how you feel. And at the end of the day, if your audience cares about you, they're going to be there. So yeah, that's kind of it. That wasn't supposed to be spaced like that.